intellectuals, students, teachers, and all the spectators to this wonderful event. How charming and different is this evening? Indeed, very wonderful. Now, this is the time to invite our first presenter, and we can listen to their points. And we know that right now everyone's hearts are beating so fast, and all the presenters are excited and nervous about their turns. Okay. First of all, I call Shai Tien to do his presentation.
Good day to you all. Today in this night event, I'm going to talk about the poem The Fear. So it was written by Gabriel Mistral. So this poem was firstly appeared in the collection of Tenora, which was published in 1924. It was also written by Gabriel Mistral, and this is a, this poem was in another language, and it was translated by Doris Dana. He is a partner of Mistral, and he's also one of the American translator. So when we see the collection of Tenora, it's a collection of Mistral's expression of love, feeling of love for children. So when we see the poem, this is a fascinated poem which have three stanzas, and it contains the worries of a mother towards her daughter's future. So when we see the first stanza, I don't want them to turn my little girl into a slow. She would fly far away in the sky and never fly again to my straw bed. Or she would nest in the eaves where I could not come here. I don't want them to turn my little girl into a slow. So as the first stanza, Mr. Begins the poem here by expressing a mother's concern about her growing daughter, and the speaker refers to society as them and thinks that they are too ambitious. So most of them are driven so much so they do not emphasis on human relationship. Mistral describes success as a flying far in the sky from her mother. So something that the mother holding arms could not ever reach. The mother describes how she does not want to lose her simple things like combing her hair, her daughter's hair, and once she grows up. So as well as as well as this as well as Mr. repeats up the starting lines at the end of the poem in every sentence, and we can also see that. So by repeating these lines, she emphasized the fear and the desperation of a mother has to that she had to protect her child. So from the second sensor, I don't want them to make my little princess girl as a princess in tiny golden slippers. How could she play on the meadow? And when the night came, no longer would she sleep at my side. I didn't want them to make my little girl a princess. So in the second sensor, Mr. uses terms of like princess and tiny golden slippers to symbolize a luxury life. So the speaker uses the word tiny while describing a child because she cannot fathom her daughter in growing up to so fast. So she describes her simple lifestyle by comparing it to the playing on the meadow. So her daughter will not be able to run free with golden slippers. It may be hurting to her. So the mother, in the end, the mother, as a speaker, mentions little things like sleeping by her side. Some is a that is a removable place as a precept to her. So the stanza ends in this similar fashion with the repetition of the first two lines. I didn't want them to make my little princess a girl a princess. So as a third stanza of this poem, in the last verse, Mr. continues to symbolize the ambition and the luxury by using the words like queen, throne, and the mother fears that her daughter will forget or spend her time little to not to time with her after having a taste of success. So then her only child who slept listening to a lull and would not return to her home. So none would be there to rock her to sleep if she feels lonely and or afraid. Misters end the poem with the same lines which repeated throughout the poem, that I didn't want them to turn. So as a techniques of this poem, Gabriel mostly uses many literary techniques, as well as here the writer has used the main technique as an enjambment. So it can be seen here when the poet cuts off the line before the natural stopping point. So for example, the transition between the lines 3 and 4 of the first stanza, we can see that. And as a technique imagery, which it can be seen when the poet insert a particularly interesting description. These should trigger the reader's senses. For example, she would fly away from my uh, from away in the sky, so she never fly again to my store bed. By these dictions, he easily visualized the scenes to the readers, and it is easy to bright up the theme of the story. And next technique is alteration. So alteration occurs when the poet repeats the same consonant sound at the beginning of the multiple lines. For example, in this poem, fly far in the line 3 of the first stanza, and night and no in the line of third of the second stanza. And when we see the poem, there are also some symbols. As a technique, she uses some symbols. For the luxury life, she used golden slippers, princess. By these words, she symbolizes the luxury life. And by the words like princess, queen, and throne, she symbolizes success, ambition, and vanity. So, on the other hand, the words meadow and strawbed are used to symbolize the freestyle lifestyle of the mother. And the writer has also used the technique of metaphor in the lines of she would fly far away into the sky and never fly again to my strawbed. So it's contained a metaphor. Here, the sky is used as metaphor for the ultimate limit of the success or ambition. And the strawbed stands for symbol life of the mother, and she fears her daughter won't be a part of her symbol life. As a writer, here used these techniques to emphasize his themes. So the main themes is mother's fear and desperation. So Mr.'s poem is primarily about the mother's fear of losing her touch from her only child. So throughout the poem, the speaker repeats the line, I don't want them to emphasize her unwillingness and regarding society's influence on her child. So this line is written as it is inevitable for the mother to lose her child to success and ambition. The mother seems to be aware of the social norms that surround her life. So she knows that the ambition, passion, and success do not necessarily prioritize a simple life and the value of human relationships. So this poses a classic conflict between the rural lifestyle and the modern lifestyle. So as a next theme, he has also taught about the simplicity and versus luxury. So this piece draws upon the difference between simple and ambitious life. So the mother's wish is not to let her daughter to live the life she has, the one in the meadow, or comes off the sweet yet clinical. So the ambition is a success are painted as the at the enemies of the story. So these are my analyzing which talks about the poem The Fear. And thanks for hearing me.
Thank you, Shaidian, for your wonderful presentation. Next, I would like to call upon Barnajan to talk about the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Good evening, everyone. Today I am going to present you about the very famous poem which is written by Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. The title also suggests about a bird, caged birds. Usually caged birds are not free, let freedom outside or kept inside a buried cage or something else. So that we know that the title also suggests us about the oppression and the freedom of other peoples, and the flying birds and the cage birds are very obsessed about in that cage. So that we can also find in the title about this poem is mainly concerned about the theme about oppression and the freedom versus freedom. So that the poet also seemed to be have the same type of lifestyle in his lifehood, as he was dark skinned people in America. He was very underestimated by the white Americans. So during the war of in the San Francisco, he was very rudely uh, um, underestimated by the white men, because she was dark skinned and from an African, seemed to be a African cultural behaviors, so that he was also undergo the same idea of this poem, so that this poem is also seemed to be an autobiography of Maya Angelou, so that this poem also concerned about the African American experience of her. So first of all, the mm, narrator wants to tell about the attitudes of the free birds. Free birds leaps on the back of the wind and flows downstream till the current ends. Usually, we know that free birds can be fly all around the sky and land anywhere else he is pleased. So that free birds leaps on the back of the wind. But even though it has many opportunities and without obstacles, it fly all around the sky. When the heavy winds blown, it turns immediately to back and rest in one place. So that free birds are concerned about their selfishness is emphasized here, because he even the free birds are adapted to the freedom, so that to without obstacles, if he face a single obstacle, it can't manage it very easily or fastly, so that the free birds immediately leaps on the back of the wind and flows downstream until the current ends. It will rest in one place in the downstream. So and then dip his wings in the orange sun rays and dare to climb the sky. First of all, the narrator says that the negative sides of the free bird, that it only focused on the selfishness and other stuffs. Then he realized the real truth, the emphasize that free birds are having freedom to fly away, and he emphasizes the beauty of flying birds, and he dips his wings in the orange sun rays. Orange sun rays seem to be a color imagery, so that sun rays can't be seen with naked eyes, so that he says is as the orange sunrise, so it is a color imagery. Then to dare to climb the sky, uh, dare to climb the sky emphasizes that the bird's only domain is the sky, so that it can go anywhere in the sky with freedom and without any obstacles and any shakeless. So that in the first stanza, the narrator emphasizes about the free birds and its attitudes. In the next stanza, but a bird that stacks down in a narrow cage. Then he immediately turned into a negative side, that cage birds. In the first stanza, he talked about the free birds and its attitude, and the next stanza, he turned to attitudes of the cage birds. But a cage bird stacks down in a narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rags. But we know that the cage birds are have his freedom inside, only inside his cage, around the barrels of the rags, so that it is very unfair to the cage bird to see the free birds flying all around the sky. It creates angry in the feelings of the cage birds. It is emphasized by the word he sees through his bars of rage is the symbol of his emotional feelings towards the free bird. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opened his throat to sing. Usually, people when they are treated unfairly or something rude in manner, they immediately shout at others and get angry, and they are mentally affected. So that this also, when these birds also in a cage, so his wings are clipped and the feet are tied, so that even though the bird is in the cage without wings are clipped and feet are tied, the narrator wants to emphasize that never uh, even the birds are wings are not clipped. It seems to be the wings are clipped because uh, from the young age of the bird, if the bird remains in the cage, it couldn't fly even if we let it out. So that it is also emphasized that the wings are clipped and the feet are tied. It can't even try to get it opportunities or to fly or in the sky. So that uh, it can't do anything. So he's opened his throat to sing. It is very emotional that it creates the sympathy in the reader's mind about these cage birds, as he only can sing to others to express his feelings, can't be express his angry towards the flying bird. So that even the cage birds seem to be very angry at the free bird, but outside of the world, man and the other people seems this bird and say that this bird is singing very beautifully, and it is very happy in that cage. But when they came into that cage, they will realize that it is very hard to be in here for a long time. So that it is in the point of view of the human beings, it is the birds seem to be very happy, but in the bird's point of view, the bird is feeling like in a hell inside the cage. So um, then in the third stanza also, the narrator wants to morely mm, emphasize the cage bird attitude. So he uses many metaphors here to extend his theories and themes of this poem. So he uses an extended metaphor here to express the characters and the usual habits of the cage birds. uh, Keshwar sings with fearful thrill of things unknown, but longs for still, and his turn is heard on the distant hill, for the Keshwar sings for freedom. Usually, the Keshwar's main focus is to get freedom from this barrel of rats, so that Keshwar sings with fearful thrills that if we notice something different from something unknown thing, suddenly it will get fearful. But the free bird can usually in his lifetime can see everything around the world. But if the cage bird sees something strange or unknown, it will get fear scared. So he will raise his
Next, I call Arunavi. Next, I call Arunavi to talk about "I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings" by Maya Angelou.
I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings is an amazing poem which was written by the most famous African American writer Maya Angelou. He's the member of the African American race. As a dark skinned woman in America, she tells about the plights she has been facing in the society. This poem is a collection of the autobiography which was written by her. Here we can see that the poet is fully aware of the bird singing, and the poet's title says that he knows the hidden reason for the bird singing, and it clearly says that it's not the direct meaning, it has a hidden meaning behind the bird singing. Poem becomes very powerful when the poet compare the two accepts the two different kinds of birds in the different occasion. We can see that the one bird is very free and another one is caged with a narrow cage. Here, as readers, we can understand that the bird who caged in the cage has a lack of freedom, and another bird has enough freedom, which helps itself to do whatever it wants. It always enjoy its freedom, and not only physically but also mentally. And we all know that we should have our freedom not only physically and but also mentally, and this form will very suitable for that free bird. And in this society we have to face freedom physically and mentally to achieve the things which is apart from our dreams, and the goals which we have to reach. Free bird is a metaphor here which emphasizes the cage the people who are in America, the white skinned people, and the cage bird is also the metaphor. It emphasizes the dark skinned people in America, and the poet is also the dark skinned woman in America. We all know that white skinned people use the dark skinned people as slaves, and they do that just because of the skin tone. Skin tone decide all these things, and they don't know that every human are equal, and here the humanity also caged with the dark skinned people. The white skinned people uses the African American as slaves. They do everything for the dark skinned people do everything for the white skinned people. It also connected with our today's society, as many men are thinking that they are very superior than women, and they guide every woman as slaves, as they are just strong enough. This situation is also related with this amazing masterpiece, which connects the dark-skinned people were being as they are workers for the American white-skinned people. In the first stanza, we can understand that the poet says the free bird has much mobility, whereas the caged bird has limited mobility, and it indicates that a racial discrimination of life. Life is like a prison for the bird who is in cage. It doesn't have any freedom. It spends its entire life by only dreaming about it, whereas the free bird is experiencing it. The illusion, the climb the sky indicates that opportunities only come for the people who have enough freedom, and all the superior power are also goes to them who have freedom. Here we can understand that freedom is our right to have our right which have to come naturally, and here the free bird has a right which come to it naturally, and freedom is it's a natural right. But in this society, for the dark skinned people, freedom is not even a thing which can get by asking for it, and here the bird's freedom is restricted and captivated. The caged bird is leading life in a dark zone. It can't it have ability to think about the things, and free bird whereas the free bird is enjoying it every day in its entire lifetime. In this situation, as a as a readers, we can think we can have a sympathy not only towards the dark skinned people in the Africa who is living in Africa, but also we have the sympathy towards the animals which humans are used as their pets by caging them in a narrow cage in which there is limited mobility. It's not limited mobility. And according to the second and third stanza, we can understand that the plight of the cage bird. It has many layers of restrictions. Only we can see that its mouth is open, but the free bird has no boundaries. It can do whatever it wants. It has no conditions in that society. And the poet mentions about the singing of the cage bird. We commonly know that the people sing when they are most in an happy mood or the joyful mood or their mood is good. But here it's irony that the bird singing mixed with the feelings of fear, anger, and frustration, and it also connects with a famous quote that the slaves sing the most when they are unhappy. So the song of the bird indicates that the bird's feeling about its own life, the bird's view towards its own life. Then the next stanza says the free bird not only enjoy enough freedom but also thinking to have more freedom in its life. Here we can understand that the crying of the bird is not the singing of the bird is not a happy one. It is the hidden direction of its crying. And here the free bird's food is identified as a fat worm, which indicates the bird's enough food to eat. The diction fat also emphasizes that the bird has enough food. The free bird has enough food, whereas the caged bird is dreaming for it. And by raising up its voice, the caged bird sings about the issues which it is facing. It's all left all in the life, and the lack of freedom and the effect of it in this world are projected through the caged bird who is in the narrow cage. And through this poem, from the comparison of the free bird and the caged bird, poet nicely projects the problems which she has been facing as an African American who is who is working under the white people, who is working under the white people as a slave. And through literature, by using her knowledge and writing as a weapon, she satirically portrays the silly condition of the American society at that time. And here the miracle thing of the literature also projected in a nice way through the poet Maya Angelou. Moreover, we can see that the poet talks about the social discrimination in an American society and the injustice against the black people just because of their skin, just because of their appearance. The extended metaphor brings out the cruelty and the oppression against the dark-skinned people by the marginalized communities which have a superior power in that society as a white-skinned people and the American. It affects the emotional and the mental health of the dark-skinned people, and we can see that the Maya Angelou is also the victim of that mental oppression. Let's analyze the poetic techniques in this poem. We can see that the poet uses many techniques to make this poem very poetic. Here, the free bird and the cage bird comes as a metaphor as well as the symbolism. And we can say that there is a rich, this poem contains rich in visual imagery, as we can picturize all these things in our mind and having the view of that, and we can think that what made the cage bird like and what made the free bird like, and the occasions they are living and their feelings also we can understand by picturizing that two kinds of birds through the comparison. And there we can tell that the actions of the birds brings out the kinesthetic imagery. Every movements of the birds are here perfectly projected in this poem. Here the birds singing and the sighing of the trees and the shouting or personification. Shadows shouting are personification. Furthermore, there are many metaphors in this poem. For example, fat worms, grave of dreams, and so on. And the singing of the bird comes as an irony. The passive structure of the poem shows the passivity of the poem, as the poem is in the passive structure. The repetition of the stanzas gives us the detailed information about the cage bird lifestyle and the cage bird plights which it has facing in the day-to-day life, whereas the free bird is living and having a very luxurious life. And we all know that the freedom is the only way which leads us to the luxurious, the happyful life. Let's analyze the theme in this poem. Here we can understand that I want to tell the main theme here. Here we can say that the racium is the a major theme which the poet wants to project through this poem to the society, and it is the big message to our society as well. Not only it is very suitable for that society, it also suitable for our society, as I told you earlier. And when we see the themes, we can understand that we all know that the Africans and the mm, Africans are all commonly white, and there are some black Africans comes and have and we can understand that black Americans are very different from the Native Americans. They are very black and they have blended hair. They always look different and look strange from the people who are living in the Native American, who have white skin. But we all know that we don't have to judge the people by their appearance, but uh, we have to judge their true identity. The true identity of the Africans, their skin tone. Their skin tone is dark, but even though they are dark, they also have many talents within them. Like the poet is also the African American. She has a wonderful talent to make the poetry as a message to the as satire and the message to that racial society. But white skinned people who are living in that American society can't accept this universal truth. It creates the ratio between the two sets of people. It differentiates the two sets of people. This difference creates the conflict between us, and it's the reason why uh, the inspiration of the Maya Angelou to wrote this amazing masterpiece. People in the society, especially the white people, avoid the people who are black just because of their appearance and the skin tone. And as a woman from that race, Angelo portrays the plight which she has faced in that society as a growing woman. And this poem also highlighted many themes, but even though it highlighted many themes, the racium is the most touched theme in this poem for me. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you, Arnavi, for your very informative presentation. Next, I would like to call Arivarasan to talk about the poem Lahore Attack.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening, all of you. I am here to speak about the prose, the Lahore attack. This is a first-person point of view prose. The narrator is the victim there, so the readers can understand the real feeling. The narrator expresses his luck that he hasn't experienced the violence or war in his country. Sagara told that he was in the safe place. Right, the writer used the word wrong 2 times. It's called repetition. Repetition is a literary device that used to emphasize an idea. Here the narrator used repetition to emphasize his luck that he hasn't experienced the violence of war in Sri Lanka. Colombo is the commercial capital city of Sri Lanka. Here the narrator compared two different pictures, that is two different parts of the country. Those are northeast province of the country and west south province. He pictures the northeast province of the country that becomes a war zone. There are two reasons for the war which are told by the narrator. One is defense of their motherland, and another one is trying to survive the geographical circumstance. The narrator told the routine work of the people in the northwest part of the country is avoiding bullets, shells, mines, and grenades was imperative for survival. He expresses his sympathy towards them. Sangakara does not create wars. He promotes sympathy and kindness. It's his genuine experience feeling about the people. He told his feeling about the people in war zone. He worried for their suffering hardship. In the seventh para, he recalls a conversation of the players in the bus. Here the Tilan Tushara joke, if there is a bomb attack, we can go to our home. Here he realized that home is the safest place for them. His joke can be taken as a foreshadow. Here the one reason for his speech is he accidentally told, or sometime they might be realized the danger they have in they have in that country, because Pakistan is famous for terrorism. So he might have spoken this from that news. Here the narrator told that